All right, so just to start, I thought we'd get ourselves centered and grounded. I know I need to feel centered and grounded to get going with this talk. So this is something that we're going to practice that we would do in my class every session that we would meet. So what you're going to do is, I'm not going to have you do the Qigong so much, but we'll do a tiny bit so you get a flavor. But when I was at a conference in Portland at TESOL, I went to a talk that said, having exercise before coming to your class or in the class is really good for cognition. And since our students at UCSC campus are walking to and from classes, I kind of felt they're getting that physical stimulation before they come in. But if you're finding a lag in the classroom, like after 30 minutes, 20 minutes, you might want to get them up, move, and then sit down. But you got to explain to students, this is good for their brains. So what I would do is I've been studying yoga for 30 years, but I've been learning Qigong this last year. And so I thought that was a much more accessible way than yoga in the classroom. So we're going to do a little teeny mini Qigong, and then we're going to do some yogic breath. And this is how we start every class. So we're going to do this sitting. And what you're going to do is you're going to put both feet on the ground, and we're going to engage our imaginations. And you're going to imagine from the soles of your feet or tailbone going to the center of the earth, to maybe a crystal center or a lava center. So you just want to ground yourself there to be grounded. And then what we're going to do is we'll do a little Qigong, just so you can see. And this is something that you can do at your desk. And I'll just show you. So you can, if you have space, you can hold your arms out like this and grab your fingers. If you don't have space, it's okay. That you don't have to do the hand thing. What you're going to do is you'll bring your head to, I'm going to my right hand side. And then you're just going to do small circles. Can you feel right here a pull, slight pull? You're going to do a rotation to the right. You would do this much longer. I'm doing a much abbreviated version. So circling the chin clockwise, and then circling the chin counterclockwise. We would do this much longer. We're going to go to the other side. Shift your head to the other side. Circle your chin clockwise. Feel gentle. You can feel a stretch here, and then counterclockwise. So that is just an example. We'll center our heads. That's just an example of something you can do at your desk all the time, just to relieve some stress in the neck. I like this, and you can also do it standing. Most of the time, it is a standing practice, but you can do it at your desk very easily. It's okay. So this is the breath work that we do, that I taught students. And when we reflected at the end of the quarter, this is one of the practices that students said that they're going to definitely continue in their daily lives. I learned about this breath technique at a yoga workshop. And at the yoga workshop, the teacher then said she learned it from Andrew Weil. Mm-hmm. So what you're seeing, all the slides are pretty much coming from my Canvas. So you're seeing kind of experiencing what students are experiencing. So in this breath work, I'm going to, and you'll have links to this. Okay, so if you go to the slides, there's links to all of this. I'm just going to do a slight shift from what Andrew Weil says. In his instructions on the exhale, it's going through the mouth. But in my experience in yoga, I feel like I have more control coming from my nose when I exhale. But it can be your choice if you want to exhale through the mouth or exhale through the nose. So what I'm going to do is I'll explain it, and then I'm going to do the counting for you.
She wants to give her talk.
What she wants.
She wants to give your talk.
I'm going to spin around those treatments. I'm sorry about this. All right. Completely okay. I didn't bring her bed. I usually she's in her bed. So I'm going to count you through this. So again, you want to be grounded, and this time you can close your eyes, but it's called a 4-7-8 breath. And what you're going to do is, don't do it yet, but I will count it for you. But let me just tell you what it is. You're going to inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7, and exhale for 8. So when I was talking about the exhale, you can exhale through your mouth or exhale through your nose. In yoga, we say through your nose because sometimes breathing through the mouth can trigger anxiety. So you might want to go through the nose. Okay, so are you ready? All right, so we're going to count you in through the whole thing. So take in the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last one. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Open your eyes. And if that feels any different to you, this practice is to be done when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed. If you're feeling any anxiety, tell my students they can do this before a test. If you wake up in the middle of the night, it can help you fall back to sleep. Do it for rounds of 4, and if you're feeling more advanced, you can do it for rounds of 8. So this is something that we did every time we came to class. So here's the workshop overview. I'm going to introduce the course principles for the class, the happiness project that I taught in writing 1E. It's part of a 2-series course at UCSC. The students in my class, it's 1E, they're multilingual learners. So English is an additional language for the students in the class. So I'm going to introduce the course principles, and these are the principles that kind of emerged organically, and I kind of was thinking about that, like what made this class what it is. And these principles are for you because you're not going to do exactly what I did in my class. So you can use these principles for your own teaching and the own types of projects that you do in your class. Then I'm going to introduce and we're going to practice some positive psychology interventions that I used in my class this past quarter. And I did this in consultation with our campus psychologist, who's also a participant in the class. He came and did a guest talk, and he also taught me some of the interventions. And you did an intervention already, right? The breath work. That's something that we taught. Then I'm going to share some of the projects that I did in the class with students. Then we're going to reflect on our own experiences. I'll share a little bit about mine, students, and your own experiences in this doing this kind of work, and they'll answer some questions. So why did I want to do this? I mean, it seems kind of obvious, but actually pre-pandemic, I had already been thinking about a need for this class. Post-pandemic, it became very apparent that students were going through a lot of mental crises. I mean, it's a national epidemic. Prior to COVID, I had done some research. I did some interviews with some of my former students, and that's some data that I'm still working with. But what came out of those interviews with Chinese international students was feelings of loneliness and inability to really express those feelings with their parents because they're the distance. They didn't want their parents be worried about them. So they were holding a lot inside themselves. And also they were having difficulty accessing our counseling services. They're super impacted. It's hard to get an appointment. And so then I was thinking, perhaps a writing class could be a really therapeutic place, because writing can be a very therapeutic practice. And we're also in a very small environment where we can become friends and have a really safe social space. So this is an example. This came from one of my interviewees. He's now at film school, but he was a film student at UCSC, and he made this film called Extroverted Loneliness that was like, wow. I mean, the film itself really expressed most beautifully about some of the feelings of depression and anxiety that students are feeling. So I embarked on trying to create a course on this. And so these are the principles that I came up with, or that I believe are the foundations for this type of teaching. But this, again, it's still in process. I'm still thinking about this. This artwork over here to the left is like a crouching person holding a ray of sun, and it says, "May you be happy, healthy, have outer and inner security, and have peace." This was a piece of artwork that a student gave me, and I'm going to forward Berkeley Helmer, and she allowed me to show this. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to teach for emotional well-being or happiness, is working towards agency. Students feeling control of themselves, control of their lives, and having resources to make them feel better if they're going through a hard time. So what we did is I provided them with some content knowledge on the topic of positive psychology. And we did that through academic readings, but also through podcasts. There's many podcasts on the topic. We also had content knowledge about genre and writing. It's a writing class. We would then have a weekly practice of practicing the positive psychology steps, and also abundant writing every week. Then what's really important in this type of class, obviously, is community building. And we'll do one exercise right after this about that. Students need to feel safe, to be able to share their feelings, to be able to share their work. Oh my gosh. Okay, so then we did reflective guided writing. Then we had that I provided them prompts, and I love the idea of having students. I'm going to bring that in. Right, students bringing in prompts. And then we want to make sure you have authentic projects. And the projects that we did were blogs, and they did final podcasts on happiness games. We did collaborative learning. We want to work with learner strengths. Students are going to create and also consult with me. And there's ample time for revision. Then there's production and performance of the work. And then there's reflection and metacognition. That's about the projects themselves. Then we build in celebration into the course itself. And then we created a co-constructed grading content, because I thought that was the most appropriate type of grading to do in this type of class. Again, this is also giving students agency, control. This is how they're going to be graded. They decided how it was going to be done. And so again, this is creating more agency. So this self-selection of what their topics are going to be. So all of that is working towards agency. Why don't we do this? You'll have access to the slides, but I want you just to experience a little bit of what we did in class. Again, this is what you're seeing is what I have on my campus. So a lot of these exercises are coming from this book that students read from Happy Hour, like Passy Poems. It's written in very accessible writing, so I thought this would be appropriate for my students. Normally, this would take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 15 minutes. We don't have time for that today, but I thought maybe we would spend, let's do, since we have no time, let's do this question number 3. Why don't you turn to a partner and just and maybe if you're in a triad, say, introduce yourself, who you are, your name, and then what is a recent accomplishment that you're proud of? So why don't we do like 2 minutes and just quickly turn to your partners. Other maybe you can.
I'll time us.
Okay.
2 minutes.
So 2 minutes. Say who you are. Hi, my name's Kim. I'm proud of X. Okay.
Sorry. I'm Lori and I'm proud and I'm keeping up with lifting my weights and I've been traveling.
Yeah. I'm Dan, and I'm proud that I got my conference presentation from last year's Rhetoricians conference published. In a book called Dynamic Activities were the keynotes last year. I thought I would have told you guys that. I guess I didn't. Oh yeah.
Hi, I'm Heather, and I'm proud that I survived that.
I texted the 17 when we went to
Just finish up your last little. Yeah, and you can see the list of questions that are. All right, I'm sorry we have this conversation because it's so important, but I wanted to get through some of the slides.
Done too good of a job.
Yeah, I know.
And student.
You created too much community.
English class, for learning this is like, I'm telling you to stop talking. That is. But for these questions, we do on day one of class, which seems like, whoa, but it really sets the mood for the rest of the quarter. And students really love this, and bringing in these type of deep questions to your class every day when you're teaching this is a great way to create community. We won't be brief. One of the first things that we did was this time tracking instrument that you will also get if you get to the slides. And that's where students have to track for 1 week what they did every day in 15-minute increments. And this is one of my students. So that's the time tracker over there. And you say what you're doing. Here's the time. And then you say from 1 to 10 how you were feeling, from feeling crappy to feeling elated, number 10. So here's one of my students' works from her blog, and what she discovered was, and this is what I discovered in my time tracker, is I am happiest when I'm with friends, socializing. So she decided that she was going to be doing more social activities with her friend, and that's a picture of her taking advantage of the social opportunity that's offered on campus. So we did this together. I did it too. We did this for 1 week, and then students had a blog post and a reflection about that. Here are some of the things that we did as some of our weekly practices. You did 2 of those. We did a mindful walking. Instructions are on the slides. 3 blessings, instructions on the slides. Random acts of kindness. You can imagine what that is. I explained to them about that. Daily physical exercise, 30 minutes a day, and compassion for self and others activity. So every week this would get added and added and added, stacking up to incorporating as many as they want. Here's the mindful practice. You can go to the slides and check it out. Students did this out on our campus in nature. This is one of the favorite things students did. Getting out into nature is super good for mental health. And this is a mindful walking. I'm wearing this little orange bracelet, and I was going to make them for everybody, but I had no idea how many people were going to be here. But I gave these to students. This is made out of Japanese linen, and we all wore these all quarter, and they were to remind us of mindfulness. So you might take a look at it and go, oh my gosh, I'm like doing 5 things at once. Okay, calm down and just do one thing at a time. So these were our bracelets. But so when you go there, you're noticing things, and I'll leave that for you to take a look at later. But essentially, you go and you notice 5 things, look and see 5 things, listen to 4 sounds, touch and feel 3 things, smell and breathe in 2 things, and then taste 1 thing. So this is the mindful walk that we did in one of our weekly practices. This is the 3 blessings. I thought we could do this, but I don't think we have time. This is coming from Risha Enriquez from UCSC and Martin Seligman, who's very famous in positive psychology circles. I kind of created this kind of more of a guided way to do this. But what essentially you say, I'm grateful for, and a lot of time in gratitude, you just say, oh, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this. But this is a little bit different because it says, I'm grateful for X because Y, it's important to me because. And I think what this does is to be more reflective, to go a little bit deeper, and to really kind of know yourself better. You can also do it with today I did X well because it's important to me because. And why do we do this? It cultivates a positive mindset. We also had a guest speaker, Tiffany Wong, who's not here today, but she was part of this organization. And there was kind of like a mantra about, may I be happy, may I be healthy or strong, may I be safe, inside and out, may I have peace or ease. And then you can do that for a friend, a neutral person, a difficult person, or all beings. So she spent a period with us, the whole period, teaching us this compassionate practice. It comes from Thupten Jinpa, who is the translator for the Dalai Lama, and he's really created this compassionate practice. If you want to hear an interview, here's a link. And here is the mantra right here. Students loved this session with Tiffany. Here are the assignments. We're working towards the podcast project. That's our kind of the big at the end of the quarter assignment. But every week they had a happiness project blog. So we would reflect, we would do a practice and say we did mindful walking over the weekend, come back to class on Tuesday. I give them a guided reflective writing. They were then to take that guided reflective writing and turn it into a blog post. So they did that for all of the interventions, or if they wanted to create their own positive psychology intervention practice, they could do that or choose the class option. But we're always going to do reflective writing and the class option. Then after about midterm, I told them that they're going to, we also had a workshop on GarageBand on how to do podcasting. Then we did the podcast pitch where they would have to meet with me in a conference to pitch their ideas and their teams about what their podcast was going to be about. 5 minutes long only for the podcast. We watched a real life authentic pitch. My friend David Weiss, up there on the top with the glasses, he generously provided me a Zoom that they had given to executives at Netflix. He is the writer of the movie Shrek. These are real life Hollywood writers giving a pitch for a new cartoon that they are wanting to come out. Students watched it. I did a genre analysis of the pitch. Then they came to me in conference. I was the executive listening to the pitch. I did this because often with my students, they are so passive in the conference. My students are passive in the conference, and I wanted them to learn to take charge. So that's why we did the podcast pitch. Then the podcast project, they came into teams. We did a lot of genre analysis of podcasts. They were on happiness themes. We listened to a lot of Snap Judgment and This American Life. And they had a guided exercise on how to do analysis of the different genre moves. And I listened to the podcast and I was so happy. They were beautifully produced, wonderful music, great, great, great. They had to write scripts also. You're going to see the script format in the folder. I had a friend who was a real life podcaster. He worked for New York podcast. The show I don't think is on anymore. Studio 360. So again, a real life model, a real script that was used on broadcast radio. They use that as their model, and that's in the folder you can use as an example of how to write a professional script. Then they produced their podcast, and they were, I have to say, amazing. I wish I could play some for you, but I will be sharing them with my future students because there's great advice on how to take care of yourself on those. We're done. So, reflections, questions, comments, connections.
We have 3 minutes.
Okay.
I
Yes.
like the idea of a nature walk. What would you recommend for campuses like San Francisco City College, where going out to see nature is like having to go to Balboa Park, Art Station, seeing the pigeons?
Oh, well, I live in San Francisco. There's the Loris Park, there's the beach, there's Golden Gate Park. There's fun. I mean, San Francisco has great neighborhoods, so they could just do a neighborhood walk. You know, it does. I mean, nature is ideal, but there are nature opportunities in San Francisco. But if I were doing this in New York City, where I used to live, I would ask my, students that are there's pocket parks all over cities, right? So they could go visit that, or they could just explore their neighborhood or explore a new neighborhood, So I don't think that should be limited, but nature is very nourishing. But if you can't do it, then you try to find your other alternatives. So I don't think that should be an obstacle at all.
I can. I'm wondering if you could talk about the relationship of like mindfulness and happiness. Right? I mean, you know me, I'm always happiness makes me a little bit skeptical. So, or do these things necessarily go together? Because it seems like the exercises as you have them defined could be about exploring grief or, other things.
Well, so I'm using the word happiness because it's kind of like marketing, I guess, because there's so many, like at Yale, Berkeley, Harvard, they have these happiness classes that are just like the rage, right? So I'm just kind of going on those coattails and using happiness as kind of a catch. But my aunt, who's a psychologist, said, happiness. A little bit what you're saying. And she says, she told me, happiness is fleeting. What you're wanting to have is, what was the word that she used? It was another word, but it was actually what I would say is knowing yourself and understanding yourself. And essentially, when you were to read all the blogs, students are learning about themselves. And when they're feeling depressed and like in bed all day, they can go, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to grab a friend and we're going to go for a walk. And that was literally a blog post from one of the students. So I think it's really about awareness of yourself and having awareness of tools to help you get out of a funk. And even just doing some breath work right before a test, and some students were saying they were doing that, is helpful to calm yourself down, to self-regulate. And one of our podcasts was on self-regulation because one of the moms was a psychologist. And so the mom was part of the podcast. I don't know, Amy, is that answering the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tina.
First, Kim, I love what you've done. And I want to be in your class. I mean, to do the podcast and also to do all the activities. And I'm going to go look at, adopt a whole bunch of it into my stuff.
Please do. Thank you.
But I have kind of 2 questions. One, I don't know how much time
We
you
have
but
55 seconds, so we might have to carry this over.
the creative
Privately.
contract, I want to know more about that. And then also the
I'm no
blogs, like if
expert,
they
so-
get published somewhere or like if those are accessible for the world.
The students?
Yeah.
Since I just got them, I'm gonna be loading stuff onto the SoundCloud, and I can share that. But right now, they're on a Google form with all the links to their SoundClouds. So that's another tip I would say is students create their own SoundCloud account, upload their podcast to that. They share the links. That was the easiest way to negotiate this sharing of files. Then I can take their accounts and then load them onto my own playlist on SoundCloud. And that was suggested by one of my students, which was a better suggestion offered than the sharing.
All right.
Great.
That takes us right to the end, so thank you, Kathy.